The topic I'm going to explain today is the difference between the element, compound and mixture, in which we are going to discuss their definitions and the difference between them. In my previous lectures, I have already discussed that matter is a pure substance that is consisting of the tiny particles called molecules. These molecules are arranged in different forms, like they can be tightly packed, they can be a little bit far from each other, or they can be far away from each other. So that gives rise to the different states of matter. And we have studied the effect of temperature and pressure on these states and how these states can interchange into each other. And interchange into each other. But today our main focus will be over the classification of matter. This is the overview, where we will be discussing the difference between the pure and the impure substance. What is the classification of the pure substance, and mixture, what mixture is, what is element, how it is different from compound, how element is formed, can we subdivide element, or can we split the compound into its element. So this is all we are going to talk about today. Talking about the element is the pure substance. It is made up of the single type of atoms. It means that if you are taking a sample of element, then all the chemical and the physical properties of that sample will be same to the rest of the product or rest of the substance. That means that element is made up of the similar type of atoms which are bonded to each other in case if these atoms are present in the diatomic form, and if they are present in the monatomic form, then all the properties of that atom which we are taking from the sample is similar to the rest of the sample. So what element actually can be defined as? Element is the pure substance that cannot be further divided into simpler substances by any chemical mean. Now, what do we mean by the term chemical mean? Chemical means the chemical reaction or the electricity. And in the chemical reaction, we know that chemical reaction involves the heat change or the energy change. So if the heat we are giving or taking out the heat from the substance, then a chemical reaction takes place. And from the electricity, we refers to electrolysis, where we are using electricity to split any substance. That means that element is a pure substance. I'm going to go back to overview. See, matter is classified as a pure substance and impure substance. The impure substance is called as a mixture, and the pure substance classified further as element and a compound. And if the pure substance is made up of the similar type of atoms, then that substance is called as element. And what is that similar type of substance? That is, we call it an atom. So if you are going to write, they ask you to write down the definition or what do you mean by the term element, then this is the proper definition you can write. An element is a pure substance which cannot be split or broken down into two or more simpler substances by chemical mean. For example, all the elements present in the periodic table, they are pure. Like if you are taking a hydrogen element, then all the atoms of the hydrogen element are similar to each other. But if you are taking sugar, if you are talking about sugar, then sugar's formula is C6H12O6. So that means that substance is not a pure element. That is not a pure substance. That is a compound. That is not an element. Why I'm calling it a compound? Because it is made up of the three different elements, atoms of the three different elements which are chemically combined together. That means that if the substance is made up of different type of elements which are chemically combined together in a fixed ratio by mass, then that is a compound. So sugar is basically a compound because it is having three different type of elements which are chemically combined together. That is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So that is not an element. That is a compound. And from the definition of element, it doesn't fulfill the requirement. So sugar is not an element, it is a compound because it can be broken down into simpler substances like carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, or carbon and water. Further notes on element are it consists of single type of atoms. It cannot be broken down into simpler type of substance by physical or chemical means. Physical method means the boiling, the filtration, the simple distillation, sublimation. So all those are the physical method. So we cannot separate elements into its atoms by physical or a chemical mean. It can exist as a diatomic or monatomic, as I have already discussed. Like when I'm going to open the periodic table, then I'll explain that which type of the element exists as a monatomic and which are existing as a di, tri, or polyatomic. So for now, just write down or note down the notes from that element can exist as either atom or a molecule. So it means that if we are having unreactive element, like noble gases, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, they are existing as a monatomic because they don't have a tendency to combine with other atoms of their own type or the different type. So they are monatomic. They exist as atom only. But oxygen, chlorine, nitrogen, hydrogen, all these are cannot exist as in the atomic form, as they are very reactive. So they combine with the atom of the other atom of the same type, like hydrogen atom will combine with the other hydrogen atom to form a molecule of hydrogen. So element that will still stay as an element, we'll call it an element because it is made up of same type of atoms of hydrogen. So that would just make a molecule of element. So that means that molecule of element is made up of the similar type of atoms which are bonded together, and the molecule of a compound is made up of the atoms of the different element which are chemically combined together in a fixed ratio by mass. So going further, this is the periodic table. In the periodic table, there are 118 elements. Out of these, there are 27 elements which are artificially prepared and 91 which are naturally occurring. And these elements are arranged according to their increasing proton number. When I'll explain you the periodic table, I will discuss everything under that. But for now, you just need to understand that these are all are the elements because they are made up of the similar type of atoms. Like if you are talking about the calcium element, then all the atoms in that element will be made up of the similar type of atom, that is calcium. And these are the noble gases which I was giving the example. For the monatomic gases, they exist in these elements exist only in the atomic form. They do not form molecule. So this was an example of elements. So this is just a brief description of the periodic table where I'm telling you that 118 elements are identified. Out of that, 27 are artificially prepared and 91 are naturally occurring. And out of these 91, they can be very reactive, like the metals, or the non-reactive or unreactive, like the gold, platinum, and non-metals. So this is just a summary of my explanation that element is made up of tiny particles. These particles can be, these particles are called as atoms. So element is further classified as atoms or molecules. If element is made up of only single type of atom, that is monatomic element. So it is the simplest. So what is atom? Atom is the simplest or the smallest particle of an element and has the same chemical properties as an element, as we have already discussed. And molecule is made up of the two or more atoms that are chemically bonded together, like a chemical bond will exist between them. And if you're talking about the noble gases, then in the noble gases, what happens? In the noble gases, they do not react and they love to work alone. So these are some examples. Copper is an element, helium is an element, sodium is an element. So they are made up of similar type of atoms. And if we are talking about the molecule of an element, then this is a hydrogen molecule made up of the hydrogen atom only. This is a molecule of ozone because they are all the oxygen atoms which are combined together. Combined together means they are bonded together. So these are the atoms of same element and these are the molecules of same element. Now what atom is? If they ask you some information or definition, then we can define it as an element is made up of the tiny particle called atom. It is derived from the Greek word atomos, that means unsplittable. But further studies have already told us that atom can be split into different subatomic particles like electron, proton and neutron. So atoms of the element is different from that of another element. If they are different and they are combined together, then they form a molecule of a compound. And we are going to discuss this further down to this lecture. These are some examples of the atoms: hydrogen atom, sodium atom, chlorine atom, made up of the similar type of atoms. And a molecule, this is a molecule of hydrogen, made up of similar type of hydrogen atom, and so on. Now I want to, the types of the molecule. If the molecule is made up of one atom only, that is a monatomic molecule, like the noble gases. If it is made up of two atoms, like here in hydrogen, so it is a molecule of hydrogen, and that is diatomic molecule. If it is made up of many atoms, then that is a molecule called as polyatomic. Poly means many, atomic means atoms. So that molecule is actually called as a polyatomic molecule. And this is a triatomic molecule where the three atoms of oxygen are bonded together. So this is the classification of molecule. And these are some other examples. Here this is a polyatomic molecule, here this is a triatomic molecule, this is a diatomic, and diatomic. So this is how we classify molecules. These are the symbols in your syllabus. First 20 elements, symbols, names, atomic numbers you need to memorize. So these are some important. The general rule is whether the first alphabet or the first two alphabets are the symbol, make the symbol of the element. Like in calcium, the first two alphabets are making the symbol. In carbon, hydrogen, the first element, alphabet, and iron, as it is also called as ferrous. So Fe is the symbol, mercury, Hg, neon, Ne, silicon, and this is what you need to memorize the symbols. And this is the classification of elements and metals and non-metals. We have already discussed that in the periodic table, on the right hand side non-metals and on the left hand side metals are present. And they are separated by a staircase. If I go back to the periodic table, I can show you where the staircase is. Usually here is the staircase. Here like this, it comes down. Here it comes down like a staircase. So the along the up at the top and the bottom of the staircase, the metalloids are present, which have both the properties. Sometimes they are acting as a metal, sometimes non-metal, so they are called as metalloids. So for now, it is not very important because we are going to discuss everything under the topic periodic table. So moving next to the compounds. Now what are compounds? Our information from the atom, element and molecule give us some information about compound, because alongside we will discussing what were compounds. So compounds are basically those pure substances in which the atoms of the different elements are chemically combined together. So if properly you need to write down the definition, then you can note it down. A compound can be broken down into simpler substances or simple type of the matter element by chemical means, not by the physical method, not by boiling, filtration, evaporation, dissolving, no, but by the chemical method. And what are the chemical methods? Chemical reactions or electrolysis. Then has properties that are different from the component elements. Like if you are making water, water is a compound. And if you are making water, then let me go further and show you what I'm talking about actually here. Hydrogen is a gas, oxygen is a gas. When we'll heat it, then what will happen? Explosion will occur and compound will be formed, and that is a colorless liquid. So these two gases combine together to form a compound, which is a liquid. So compound is having completely different properties from the element from which it is made. This is another example of making water. Hydrogen gas, oxygen gas combined together to form water. So this is what they are actually trying to say, that has the properties different from the component element and always contain the same ratio of the component atoms. Like if you're taking water from Niagara Falls, you're taking a sample of water from River Thames, you are taking a sample of water from anywhere from the world, then water is H2O. So hydrogen is always 2, oxygen is always 1. So the hydrogen and oxygen combining in a same ratio. And whenever you want to make water, you will need that ratio to make water. So this was all about, I'm not going to discuss mixtures today, and I'll make a separate video to explain mixtures. For now, I'm going to review the whole topic, what we discussed, and under that objectives, under that headings, what I have explained you. So we discussed a little review of matter I gave you, in which we talked about the arrangement of the particles and the bonding and the motion in solid, liquid and gases. And then the classification of matter as a pure and impure substance, and the classification of pure substance as element and a compound. In the element, we talked about atoms and molecules, and in the compound, we talked about their composition, their properties, how they change, how they form, how they can split. So this was all about, I explained you today. I have tried to explain it in a very easy way. In case you have any question, you can write in the comment section. I'll see you again. Thank you. God bless you. Take care. Bye.